right, well, thanks for joining me in another episode of Why Not Go. I'm back in the tiki room. It's a very, very warm day in Florida, so I'm actually having a tiki drink. It's very hot outside right now. Well, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate everyone subscribing and commenting. I really like the dialogue. Well, this video's it's not about the Sex Pistols, so there'll be no crying in it. So, because I'm such a basket case when it comes to the Sex Pistols. I love the band so much that, like the last video when I talk about meeting Johnny Rotten, I can't help but I get teary-eyed. So I don't think I'll be crying in this one. So this will be something new, a non-crying video. But I think you'll find it interesting, especially if you like 70s punk rock, and it's a fun video, kind of a confession of mine, and it just shows how life was so different before the internet, before IMDb, when you could check up on people. Before any of that, you could get away with things that you can't get away with today. So yeah, I'm going to go back to the year 1979. As I said in a previous video, I think the Sid Vicious video, I moved to England in the summer of 1978, and with my friend Sue, the same friend I went to see the Sex Pistols with, and we lived there for 2 years. I love London, and so we were there for 2 years, and I was working at Topshop in Oxford Circus, and she had a 9-to-5 job, kind of. She worked for a technical magazine, and we were living in Golders Green. When we first arrived, for the first 6 or 8 months, we were living in a bedsit. But then we finally figured out that if you go out of the Zone 1 into a little bit further out of London, the center of London, you can get a little more bang for your buck, so to speak. So we had a tiny little studio apartment, studio flat in Golders Green. I think it was on North End Road. And we had our own bathroom and our own phone. Big luxuries for us. But I remember the studio was so small that it couldn't fit a normal couch. They had like a little child's couch in their sofa. So it was a small room, but we were happy to have our own bathroom. I could actually sit in the tub, and I didn't have to worry about someone banging on the door because they had to use the toilet. So anyway, so one day, it was the spring of 1979, just right around that time, spring of 79. I was around 20 years old. I would have turned 21 in June. So I was almost 21, but I think I was still 20 during that time. And and Sue had a rare day off. She was, I don't know why, but she wasn't working. I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, and I usually had Monday or Tuesday off from Topshop because I had to work Saturdays. I don't think I worked Sundays, but I worked Saturdays. I loved working at Topshop. I was there for 2 years, and so we're sitting around the flat, and as I said, I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, and we started talking and playing records, and I think there was alcohol involved. I think we were drinking beers. I'm sure we were drinking something. I think we were drinking beers. And so what do two young girls do when they're sitting around playing music and drinking alcohol? Well, they start talking about boys. So it's like this Viv Albertine book, which I really love. I love Viv Albertine and the Slits. It's called Clothes, Music, and Boys. So I was very similar. I probably wouldn't order it that way. I'd probably put music first, and then boys, and then clothes. So Sue and I were sitting around and having fun on a day off during the week, and we started talking about bands and boys, and I said that I really liked the singer of this new punk band called The Skids. They had just released an album called Scared to Dance. It came out February 23rd, 1979, and I remember telling her, oh, I really like the singer. He's really cute. He kind of looks like, I'll show a picture here. He kind of looks like Steve Jones. He's tall and has kind of short, tousled, curly hair. Very, very cute guy, I think. And so we just started talking. I said, oh, I really like him, Richard Jobson, the singer from The Skids. He's so cute, and whatever girls say. And then Sue, I don't know, she had good ideas. I don't know if it was a good idea or bad idea. She goes, yeah. And I said, I'd love to meet him. And she goes, well, you should try to meet him. And I said, how am I going to meet him? Maybe if he comes into Top Shop, but that's kind of unlikely. Although we did have a few famous people come in, but I said it's kind of unlikely he's going to come into Top Shop. And then she said, again, we were probably on our fourth or fifth beers. She said, oh, well, you could just pretend like you're a journalist, call up his record company, and they'll never know. You still have an American accent. And I said, I don't know. I don't think that's going to work. I mean, they probably, check up on people. And she was very positive. She was like, no, how are they going to check up on you? You just call and say you're a journalist, and then you meet him. And so I don't know if she talked me into it, but she was so, positive about it. And, because I said I wanted to meet him. And so I call up the record company. It's Virgin Records, and they had, obviously they released the Sex Pistols album, Nevermind the Bollocks, and I think they were signing quite a few bands. And so I call up the record company. I call up Virgin Records, and I said, I'm a freelance journalist, and I'd like to interview the singer from The Skids. And then I remember I don't know if I was put through to the PR department, but I remember it was a female voice saying, okay, someone will call you back. And so and then I put the phone down. I was already nervous. I already thought, oh my God, this is so silly. And so I don't know, alcohol makes you do silly things. And so we go on and drink more beer and play more records. And then the phone rings, and it was only, I think, about half an hour later, and the phone rings, and it was the PR person for The Skids, and I don't know, maybe some other bands too. And I gave her my real name. I gave her my full name. My first name, is Margaret, obviously. I thought Maggie didn't sound quite professional enough. And so I said, and she only asked me a couple questions. She goes, what? She says, they say you're a freelance writer. And I said, yeah, I didn't want to say Rolling Stone because I thought maybe they could check on that. And that sounds like too big time. So I said I was a journalist, and I wrote for Cream and Hit Parader and a couple of local magazines in LA where I'm from. And she says, okay. She goes, well, she says, can you be at the Ship tomorrow on Wardour Street at 1:00? And I was just like, I was just floored. I thought, oh my God, that was easy. And I'm repeating, I'm on the phone, I'm repeating it to Sue, and she's there looking at me. And I said, you want me to be at the Ship tomorrow? That's on Wardour Street at 1:00. And she's looking at me, and she's saying like, go, And I'm already getting scared. And she's like, do it, go, like this channel, why not go? And I said, yeah, I can make it. Okay, tomorrow at 1:00 at the Ship. And then she's okay. She said, it was a very short conversation. She said, okay. She said, he'll meet you there. And I hung up the phone, and I was just like, I said, Sue, that was too easy. I mean, that means anybody I want to meet, I can call up, go from record company to record company and just meet whoever I think is cute. So anyway, so I started, maybe the beers were wearing off. I started to get really nervous. She wasn't nervous because she didn't have to do it. I started to get really nervous. And I remember telling her, I said, well, how am I gonna pretend like I'm a journalist? I don't know what am I supposed to do? And she says, oh, just bring a pen and paper and just get a pad of paper and bring a pen and ask him questions and scribble some stuff. And I remember she was saying, oh, you know, he won't know the difference, and you'll if he likes you, maybe he'll invite you out later for dinner or something. And so, oh God, and so I was just I don't know. I'm not a good liar. I'm still not a good liar. Even now, when I try to pull his leg or something, he always tells me, like, you're a terrible liar. so I'm a terrible liar. So maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But anyway, so I was starting to get nervous, but I did like the Skids. I wouldn't say they were, the same caliber as like maybe a PIL or a Joy Division, those are probably my two favorite bands during that 2-year period. But I did like them. They were kind of commercial, but I thought they had some good songs. So their album came out. It's called Scared to Dance. And they were from Dunfermline, Scotland, the Skids. And they're actually on tour right now, which is kind of a coincidence. I think. I don't know who else besides the singer Richard Jobson is an original member these days, but they're actually on tour right now. So that's kind of neat that they're still going. And then they had another hit with their second album, Working for the Yankee Dollar. I remember that. And their second album was called Days in Europa. But the song I really remembered was on the first album, Scared to Dance, Into the Valley, betrothed and divine, da 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 da. It was commercial, but I thought it was good. And they, I guess they're remembered, but I don't know, maybe they're probably better remembered in England than they are in the US. I never really hear them on the radio or anything. But one of the things that they're really, that was also significant with them is that Stuartadamson was their lead guitar player on their first album, and I think their second album too. He left the band in 1981, and he went on to form Big Country, and Big Country were huge, very, very big in probably Britain as well, but very big in the United States. I remember every time you turned on MTV, they had their In a Big Country, Dreams Stay With You, that song. That was a huge hit. So he went on to sing and play guitar in Big Country, and I remember they were on Saturday Night Live. They even played the Grammys one year. They were Big Country. They were huge. But unfortunately, Stuartadamson, he had a very untimely death. He died December 16th, 2001. I'll show a picture of him here. He was only 43. He was found dead in a Honolulu Best Western hotel. He actually hung himself, terrible, with a electrical cord that was in the wardrobe. And they said he had a large amount of alcohol in his system. Apparently he was going through a troubled second marriage. He was estranged from his wife, and he had some problems with alcohol. He had a DUI he had to face in court in 2002. But yeah, so that's quite sad. But yeah, the Skids, I think they were an important punk band, and I think especially since Stuartadamson, who I think wrote most of the music when he was in the band, and Richard Jobson wrote the lyrics. But I think they're an important band, especially because they had Stuartadamson in them. So if you don't remember the Skids, I'll just play a brief video here. This is from, it should be from 1979, and it was when their hit single, Into the Valley, was in the charts in England.
There we are, a rundown of the current 20, and now a fine band from Dunfermline, Skids, who are sitting at number 20 with Into the Valley.
right. So that was the Skids doing their hit. I think it Into the Valley. I think it got to number 10 on the UK charts. So that was in the spring of 1979. So yes, so I had the appointment to meet Richard Jobson the next day, and as I said, when the alcohol wore off, I went from being sort of happy to being like, oh God, what am I doing? It was so nerve-wracking. So anyway, so the next day I had to work at Topshop, and I think I've talked already about working at Topshop, but I'll just recap it a little bit. I worked there, as I said, for 2 years, and I was promoted pretty quickly once I started to being a boutique manager, and I managed the boutique of a designer called Paul Howie, and Paul Howie, his wife was Lynn Franks. So it was kind of an interesting job because I worked for Topshop. They paid me my check, but I really kind of worked for Lynn Franks, and because I was selling her husband's clothing. I didn't sell the Topshop clothing. I just worked exclusively in the Paul Howie boutique in Topshop. I didn't have to do any money transactions. All the money went through the cashiers at Topshop. But it was a pretty big boutique. We had our own dressing room, and so she was kind of my boss. And of course now she's quite famous as a fashion PR person, and she was also the inspiration for the Adina character. I'll show the two characters here from the series Absolutely Fabulous, and then I'll show another picture of her with Joanna Lumley, who played in the series. So that's Lynn Franks on the left. And it's funny, I always laugh when I see this picture because when I worked for her, I don't remember her smiling very much. She really scared me at first. She was so no nonsense. She would come into the boutique, and she wasn't the kind of person that would say, hey, how was your weekend, or enjoying the weather, Maggie? No, it was like she would walk in and say, why is this here? Why is that there? You got to put this in the front. You got to put this in the back. The newer stuff is mixed with the older stuff in the front, and then you do this and you do that, and every time she left, I just was always like thinking, oh my God, I'm like terrible at this job, because she wasn't the kind of person that would point out anything that you did right. It was always kind of what I was doing wrong. So, but I think she knew I was a good worker, and I noticed that the longer I was there, the less I saw of her. She would have an assistant come in once a week, usually, to check on me. So she was quite intimidating, and I would say she wasn't super bubbly, but I can see why she's a big success, because she was really no nonsense as a boss, Lynn Franks. I remember, and I got a good clothing allowance at that boutique, and I'll show a picture here of me wearing that you can see the t-shirt. It's a little out of focus, but this was taken, I think, about 1981 when I was back in America, but I'm wearing the Howie t-shirt there. And I dyed my hair pretty black at the time, and I had bangs. But it was a great job. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I've had a couple of people ask me, did you have a work permit? I did not. They never asked me. There were a couple Americans working at Topshop, not as long as me, just for a few months. But no, I was happy to have the job, and I was very, very happy when I worked there. So I go in the next day after this drunken phone call to Virgin Records with Sue there egging me on. I said, go. I went into work, and first thing I did, because I knew I'd probably have to take a longish lunch, the first thing I did is I went in and I said to one of the workers who worked in a boutique near me, I think she had already gone to lunch, or she took an early lunch, And I said to her, I said, I'm leaving about 10 to 1. I said, I think I'm going to be longer than an hour, but please, I said, if Lynn comes in, if Lynn Franks come visit in, or her assistant was funny. She would sometimes tell me, oh, you're lucky it's me today and not Lynn. She's in a mood, she's throwing things. So it wasn't just me that was afraid of Lynn Franks. It was everybody. But anyway, I told the other worker, I said, if Lynn comes in or her assistant, please tell them I just left. Whatever time it is, 1:30, 2, just tell them I just left for lunch, because I thought that would sort of buy me more time in case they came in that day. And so, yeah, I still remember this like it was just yesterday. So I leave at 10 to 1. I go to the ship on Wardour Street, and I'll just show the outside here. I guess it's still there. I want to go see it again. I always remember that was the place you went to drink before you went to the Marquee, because the Marquee was just a couple of doors down. And I remember it was kind of a small pub. I think it was like a narrow, small pub. So I walk in thinking, oh God, I'm going to meet this cute singer, journalist Maggie. And I walk in, and he's in the back. I saw him, but he wasn't alone. The publicist was with him. And they both looked, it was funny, I still remember their faces. They didn't look happy to see me. They looked disappointed. And I don't know if I was being paranoid, but I think they were disappointed, because at the time I was only 20, and I think I probably looked, very young, obviously. And I just remember thinking, oh God, they know I'm not a journalist. I can see it on their faces. They don't look, I don't know, they just didn't look pleased. They weren't super smiley. And so and I just thought, oh, I look too young to be a journalist, because you probably, should be 30 or at least 25 to have had some experience. But anyway, I walk up to him, I say, hi, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny, I wasn't, this is kind of an odd thing to say, but I wasn't attracted to him at all. It's so funny, you see someone on stage, and they look different, he looked kind of rock and roll. Sometimes he wore a tie on stage, sometimes he wore a leather jacket. But when I met him in person, I just wasn't attracted to him at all. He didn't look rock and roll at all. He looked, and I hope Richard Jobson never sees this video, but if he does, I apologize for wasting your afternoon. And you were very handsome then, and you're still handsome now, but this is just what was going through my head at the time. So anyway, but I wasn't attracted to him at all. He was wearing, I'm kind of like Viv Albertine, the book that I just read. I was really into clothing, and he didn't look rock and roll at all. He was wearing a sweater and sort of high-waisted pants. A lot of men wore high-waisted pants then, which is fine. But he was wearing a sweater, and it was kind of like a short sweater. It wasn't like a cool rock and roll sweater. It was like a striped, like a schoolboy sweater, and it was sort of short and tucked into his pants. And I just thought, oh, he doesn't look like the singer I saw on TV a couple days ago. I thought he didn't look quite, I don't know, he just didn't look the same, and I didn't feel any, I didn't feel like he liked me at all, and I didn't feel any attraction to him, which is odd, because I thought he was handsome, but I just wasn't attracted to him. So I'm thinking like, oh God, this is dumb. I'm not attracted to him. The publicist and him they both look disappointed. They probably know I'm not a journalist. So I'm just got to get this thing over with quick and get back to Topshop and not lose my job. So anyway, I go to they already had their pints. They must have got there a little bit early. And so I go up to the bar. And I'll show a picture here of the interior of the pub, and we were in the back, so they were standing on the wall. So I go up to the bar rather, and I get myself a pint, and I remember thinking, oh, they're probably talking about me, and then not in a good way. And then I got my pint, and I just thought, let me just scribble a few things down and get this over with. And so anyway, I talked to him, and it's kind of hard when you're when you're talking and you're standing in a pub and you have your pint and then writing things down. But I did the best I could to pretend like I was a journalist. I remember trying to ask questions and trying to write as much as I could down. I think a real journalist would have had a tape recorder, but of course I wasn't a real journalist. And then so anyway, so about a half an hour went by, or maybe longer, and I thought, okay, this is pleasant enough. They probably know I'm not a journalist, but I continued the pretense, and I asked questions, and I scribbled some stuff down, and I've got time to maybe grab myself a quick kebab and get back to Top Shop by 2:00. And so right when everybody was kind of finishing their drinks, I said, well, it was nice to meet you. This was great. And I really, thank you for your time. I'm going to go. And the publicist said, oh, no, we're going to lunch. I said, I thought, I said, and I really didn't want to go to lunch. And I remember saying to her, well, I said, I've got all the material I need. And I've got to run. And she was quite insistent. And so maybe she did think I was a journalist. Maybe she really thought I was the real deal. I don't know. But I remember she was quite insistent. And she goes, no, I've already made a reservation. We're going to lunch. And like as I said, really didn't want to go. I just wanted to get the whole thing over with, because I wasn't, he wasn't attracted to me. I wasn't attracted to him. And on that note, I should mention that I've learned since then that he married Mariella Fostrop in 1979. So he could have already been married to her or engaged by the time I met him. And I'll just show a picture of her. They were only married 5 years. They divorced in 1984, but I remember seeing her on TV in the 80s and the 90s, and I think she's still on TV. Very, very pretty woman. And so, yeah, I mean, why is he going to be interested in me? He's with Mariella Fostrop, and they were so young. I mean, since I did my research, she was born in 1962, and he was younger than me. He was born in 1960. So when I met him, he was only 18, but he wasn't even 19 yet. And she must have been in 1962, born in 1962, she was only 16, maybe going on 17 in 1969. So they were both very young. I mean, I was young, but they were a couple of years younger. So anyway, so no wonder why he wasn't interested in me. He was with Mariella Fostrop. So finally, I guess I gave into the pressure. I said, okay, I guess I have to eat. So I was hoping they would just want to go to a quick cafe, like there's lots of in Soho, a sandwich place or something. I'd get something to eat and get back to work. But they didn't. We go out and we walk, and I think it was a restaurant on Dean Street, and it was a French restaurant. And it was the most high-end restaurant I think I had ever been to at that time, and definitely one of the highest-end restaurants I've ever been to in my life. I think it was called something like Louis XIV. It was one of those places that would have like curtains in the windows. You couldn't even see inside. It was high-end, like haute cuisine, whatever you call it, high-end French restaurant. You just walked in and it was full of older people. It wasn't really trendy at all. I was kind of surprised. It was full of older people, mostly. It was the kind of place that, like, I don't know, Prince Charles or maybe even the Prime Minister, members of Parliament probably went there if they went to Soho. It was that kind of restaurant. So my heart sunk. I thought, oh my God, I'm not going to get back to Topshop anytime soon. This is going to be a long lunch. This is going to be a long lunch, and I don't need to talk to Richard Jobson anymore. So yes, we sat down. It was a very long lunch, and one of the things that kind of struck me was how at ease they were at this place. I guess record companies had a lot of money to throw around at that time. They must have, because they were ordering really expensive stuff. They were ordering wine. I think they got a bottle of wine. I don't remember what I ordered, but it was a long lunch, very high end. It was hard for me to get out of there quickly. I tried my best, but it was very difficult. But yeah, that was what really struck me. I thought, wow, I don't know, I guess it doesn't matter if you're in a punk band, and I've read that he grew up in a working class family. So I don't think he grew up going to restaurants like that. But I just remember I was really, not uncomfortable, but I was kind of ill at ease, I guess, because I wasn't used to going to super high-end places. And they were very at ease. So I think that was like their go-to place in Soho. It was this like Louis XIV white tablecloth restaurant. So I don't know how long it took. I knew it was at least an hour before I could leave. And I just remember, I think I left when they were still there. I did eat something, but I think I left when they were still there. And I said my goodbyes, and I remember leaving, and I ran as fast as I could, because I didn't want to lose my job. And I thought, you never know. We're only supposed to take an hour. I think I took at least 2 hours when all was said and done, probably 2.5 hours. And so I remember running up Wardour Street, down Oxford Street. And I finally got back to Topshop, and I remember I asked the girl I asked to keep an eye out for Lynn Franks, or her assistant. The first thing I asked her was, I said, did Lynn come in, or anyone? And she goes, no. She says, it's been super quiet. You didn't miss a thing. So I didn't miss anything. Everything was fine. And but I always remember her saying, the other girl, I always remember her saying, she said, you took a really long lunch. You must have had a good time. And I said, no. I said, I didn't have a good time. I really didn't have a good time. But I remember telling her, maybe I'll laugh about it one day, but it wasn't fun. So I guess this is my day to laugh about it. Me impersonating a journalist just to try to meet a rock singer. So I'm sure he will never see this video, but if he does, Richard Jobson, I'm sorry I wasted your afternoon. But I didn't want to go to the French restaurant, but I'm sorry I wasted your afternoon. I was not a journalist. I was just a young girl living in London, and now I'm probably going to get teary-eyed. I was just a young girl living in London and just loving all the new music coming out of England at that time. I still can't believe all the amazing music that I saw in those 2 years. As I said before, my favorite band was Joy Division, but I saw many, many bands, including the Skids, and I liked all of them, and I loved a lot of them as well. So I hope you like the video. It just shows you how different things were before the internet, when you could lie a lot more and do things you're not supposed to do. So I'll play a last video of the Skids. I'll play them doing the song, which was another hit of theirs, "Working for the Yankee Dollar." This was on their second album, and I'm glad they're still touring and still important in music. So hope you enjoyed this fun story. Thanks again. Thanks as always for watching, and until the next one, I'll be seeing you.
For the Yankee Dollar!